So this is the first in a new series as I look at my all-time 11 best players that I've seen play for Arsenal. In this first part, I start with the goalkeepers. Hello, my name is Richard and welcome back to my channel over and over and over again, which features everything to do with Arsenal. Now, this video is the first in a series as I look at my all-time favourite 11 players that I've seen play for Arsenal over the years. And in this first part here, I'm going to look at the goalkeepers and pick a goalkeeper to play in my all-time Arsenal 11. Just before I do that, I just want to make sure that you have subscribed to my channel. If you're new to the channel, please click the subscribe button. It's down there in the corner. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up as well. If you've got any comments at all about your all-time 11, which goalkeeper you would pick, and any comments about the selections that I've made, please drop them in the comments box as well, as it is nice to hear from you guys as well. So, the very first goalkeeper I saw play for Arsenal on my first game in October 1981 was Pat Jennings, a great goalkeeper, of course, that he was, even though he joined Arsenal very late in his career. And he was probably past his best, to be fair, by the time I started seeing him play for Arsenal. He was still a very, very good goalkeeper. And, of course, he brings back great memories for me of my early days in the early 1980s, watching the club. Of course, it wasn't a successful period really for Arsenal, was it? Although he had previously helped the club win the FA Cup. It's a shame really for me that I missed, certainly live, his performances in the late 1970s. I did see a few on the television, the FA Cup final appearances, etc. He always struck me as being a great goalkeeper, and I was lucky enough to have seen him play, I say, quite a lot for Arsenal, I say in the first few years of me going to games. What stood out for me was the size of his hands. They were like shovels, wasn't they? He could pick the ball up with one hand, and as well, he seemed to read the game very well. He had great reflexes as well, a really good goalkeeper. It was a shame for me really that his career at Arsenal and his football career in general in the end didn't quite finish on such a high. If you remember, there was a game at Oxford in the League Cup in 1984. We lost 3-2 and he made a couple of mistakes for some of the goals that night, and unfortunately that signalled the end of his Arsenal career. But a great goalkeeper, one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time. I had to include him in my top three. So then next up was the man who actually replaced Pat Jennings. John Lukic, of course, arrived from Leeds in 1983 as the long-term replacement for Jennings, and that was exactly how it panned out. He had to bide his time. He didn't get a lot of appearances in his first season, but I say after those mistakes by Jennings against Oxford, John Lukic got his chance and he grabbed it with both hands. And over the next 3 or 4 seasons, he became one of the most consistent goalkeepers in English football. Absolutely brilliant he was. I always felt he was actually quite underrated. I felt he should have played for England. I felt he was certainly up there with the best goalkeepers in the league at that time. It's strange, actually, because the very first time I saw John Lukic play was against Arsenal in 1980 at Ellen Road, in a game I saw highlights of on the television. Arsenal won 5-0 that day, and John Lukic made several terrible mistakes. I think at least 3 of the goals were down to his mistakes. So when Arsenal bought him a few years later, I was very surprised and not really expecting him to go on to have the career that he did. But of course, one of the highlights for me from John Lukic's career was the fact that he was in goal on the occasion where I saw Arsenal lift the trophy for the first time, of course, the 1987 League Cup, that great final at Wembley against Liverpool. He was magnificent that season, actually, and he helped us win the first trophy that I'd ever seen Arsenal win. So for me, he'll always have a special place in my heart. And of course, we can't mention John Lukic without going back to, of course, that famous game at Anfield in 1989. Of course, he played in that game. He was never present that season as we won the league. Of course, he kept a clean sheet in that game at Anfield. And let's not forget, of course, it was his throw to Lee Dixon that started the move that led to the title-winning second goal in the final minute of that game. For me, fantastic goalkeeper, very underrated. Of course, he did have 2 spells at Arsenal, didn't he? He came back again in 1986 and stayed until the turn of the millennium. Made a few appearances here and there as a third-choice goalkeeper, so showed his loyalty to the club. And of course, he did win the league with Leeds as well, didn't he, in 1991. So the third goalkeeper we're going to look at then in my selection is the man who replaced John Lukic as well, called David Seaman. Very controversial signing, actually, wasn't he? Because at the time, all us fans felt that John Lukic was, I say, one of the best goalkeepers in the league. So why we needed a replacement, nobody really understood. But as has been said, George knew, and he knew that David Seaman was the best goalkeeper around at that particular time. And I don't think any of us can really have too many complaints about that. What a great signing he proved to be. £1.3 million at the time in 1990 was a record for a British goalkeeper. And he certainly did everything possible to justify that price tag. Obviously, in his first season, we won the league, conceding just 18 goals. And from then, really, he just went from strength to strength, didn't he? Fantastic career, not only with Arsenal, but also with England. Of course, he became a regular in the England side. Very unusual for an Arsenal player to be looked on as a national hero, but of course he was, following the Euro 96 tournament, where, of course, he made some great penalty saves, didn't he, in the shootout against Spain, if you remember. And then, of course, the one from Gary McAllister in the game against Scotland as well. Fantastic goalkeeper for England over a number of years. And, of course, for Arsenal as well. In the end, he stayed at Arsenal for 13 years. He's a record appearance holder for an Arsenal goalkeeper. Record number of clean sheets as well, of course, playing behind that famous back four. A fantastic goalkeeper, one of the best in Premier League history. Of course, he had to be included in my top three, didn't he? So then, that's my top three goalkeepers there. I need to pick one to go into my all-time 11. It's quite a tough choice, actually. In the end, it's going to come down to a choice between Lukic and Seaman. Pat Jennings, unfortunately, I missed his best years at Arsenal, and he was, I say, reaching the end of his career when I saw him, and unfortunately, that rules him out. Had I seen him play a little bit earlier, he may well have been in with a shout. But this is going to come down to a straight choice between Lukic and Seaman. It's actually quite a tough choice for me because I love both of them as goalkeepers for Arsenal. I thought they were both absolutely fantastic. Gave us a lot of great memories, a lot of trophies as well. But I've got to pick one, and it's going to have to be David Seaman. For me, he just edges it just for the fact that the longevity of his career, I say 13 years, 564 appearances for the club, 9 trophies as well. And of course, the fact that he was a massive hero for England as well. And a very nice guy on top of that as well, isn't he? So David Seaman gets it for me. He's going to be my goalkeeper in my all-time favourite 11. But let me know what you think about my choice. Have I made the right choice? Have I missed out a few people possibly in my top 3 as well? Some people might wonder why I've stopped with David Seaman in 2003. I haven't picked a goalkeeper more recent than that. Well, I don't believe we've had a really decently consistent goalkeeper since David Seaman. Jens Lehmann obviously was in with a shout of getting into the top 3 because obviously the invincible season, but he was just prone to the odd lapse of concentration, the odd mad moment. And of course, I've never really totally forgiven him for getting himself sent off in the 2006 Champions League final, which cost us the opportunity to win that trophy. In more recent times, Petr Cech, again, another one that was in with a shout. Again, a bit like Pat Jennings, he maybe joined Arsenal towards the end of his career. His better days were behind him. He was decent enough for Arsenal for a few seasons. Good goalkeeper. I just feel as though the three choices that I made, it just pips it ahead of him. And the same with Bernd Leno as well. I think maybe in a few years' time, if he can continue the consistent performances he's produced over the last few years, then I'm sure he could maybe get a shout of being in with a chance of getting in the top 3 maybe in a few years' time. But at the moment, the top 3 I've settled with is Pat Jennings, John Lukic and David Seaman. And for me, it's going to be David Seaman in goal in my all-time 11. So I hope you enjoyed that video there. Coming up next time, I'm going to be looking at the right backs. I'm going to look at the top 3 right backs that I've seen play, and I'm going to have to pick one to go in the team in front of David Seaman. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming very soon. And of course, in the meantime, as always, come on, you Gunners!